Hello again, folks. Lads and lassies, loons and coins, as they say in Aberdeenshire. Today I want to have a look at another article which is on my Radical Roots website. Something that I wrote 4 or 5 years ago, which is about fashion has gone out of fashion. Now, if we look at what has happened in the post-war world, we see that fashion changes about every 4 or 5 years. Now, we can look at evidence of this quite easily. These photos down here. Now, you can see this first one here. This is from 1960. And you can see the cross-cut style, the women's swept back hair, the kind of shirts they're wearing. Clean-cut American kids, 1960. Now, these lovely lassies on this side here are 4 girls from Britain. Now, the country has changed in this case, but the point doesn't really change particularly in this case. Now, these are 4 mod girls from 1964. And you can see that if you look at the hairstyle of the women, it's very different. Things became combed down. You look at the makeup, it's changed. The clothes are very different. Now, that's only 4 years. If we jump ahead, this is 1968. And these are hippies. It's hard to tell whether this is in Britain or America, actually, by looking at them, but it's actually in America. And again, if we look at the hairstyle, it's changed very considerably, this kind of mod hairstyle. And the clothes were much more tight and stiff and angular then. They become only 4 years later, remember? This is 1964, this is 1968. They become much looser. They're still thin fitting, because this is another topic for another day. People were much thinner then, thanks to the different types of food that we eat now, which have made us all much fatter than people here. You notice all these people are thin, pretty much, from these different eras. Anyway, that's a topic for another day, right? But the style, there's beards now. The mod guys never had beards. I've got a little bit of a beard here now, and sometimes mod folk take the piss out of that. Well, my girlfriend likes it. And the hair became much longer, although bands like the Pretty Things were wearing hair this long in 66. But the average kind of mod guy, they had medium, short, or slightly long hair. Like the guys in the small faces had haircuts more or less like her. But the style's become much looser and longer hair. And again, it's only 4 years. Now, if we move on, this is actually, I think this is 1970. I'm getting confused myself now. Anyway, the point stands. Now, we move on to 77. And again, 7 years later only. And the style has become very, very different again. Obviously, this is the punk style. And if you look at the styles here, extremely different from the guys here. This is in Britain again. Extremely different from the style of hair to these guys. If these guys here in 68, 69, 70, if one of them looked like that or that, they'd be thinking, what is this weird haircut you've got? Now, and then the clothes, of course, are very, very different. Okay, 1960, early 60s, mid 60s, late 60s, mid, late 70s. Very, very different from each other. It's only 4 or 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later again. In this case, a slight jump. It's about 7 years later, but still not so much. Now, if we go back up to the color photos, what we can see here is the recent situation. Now, we've got 4 photos here. One of them, or two of them rather, are from 2008. Two of them are from 2018. As I said, I wrote this article 5 years ago. Now, if you look at them, it's very, very difficult to tell which is which. To be honest, I've forgotten myself which is which, even though I selected these photos from those times. But I've written it in my files if I want to check what it is. And I can prove that they're from those years. The main point is, in that 10 years, it's very tough to tell which of these two is from 2008 and which of these is from 2018. And again, if we go back down again, we can tell in a second which it is. 1960, you just look at this guy's hair, that guy's hair, and that guy's hair. We can see in 1 second that it's different eras, and we can tell, if you've got any kind of cultural knowledge at all, you'll be able to tell which era these photos are from. Again, look at the women's. Well, actually, there's not too many women in these photos. Actually, let's go down. I didn't notice that until now. Let's go down. What I've done now is I've extended the time even further. Two of these are from 2001. Two of them are from 2019. So it's now become 18 years later. Which is which? Very tough to tell. Look at the kind of clothes that people are wearing. Look at the woman's haircut. Look at the guy's haircut. Which is which? Very, very hard to tell. And so the point of this video is, fashion has gone out of fashion. Things used to change very, very quickly. But now they don't. In only 4 or 5 years, the style was markedly different. If that guy here had gone to meet his pals there in 1960, they would say, what the hell are you wearing your hair like this for? Right? Or if this mod girl went out with a guy with hair like that, her friends were saying, where's this guy from? There's only 13 years difference between these two. We can look at these with 18 years difference. And we really can't tell which is which. It's very, very tough. Now, this is a weird thing. What happened to fashion change? If we look in detail, we can see that there are some changes. Someone who's studied culture well or just has a good memory will be able to remember some subtle changes in shirt style or trouser style, pants, as you say in America, and subtle differences in makeup or bags or something like that. But the point is, it's very, very subtle. If you're looking at these things here, even someone who's got no knowledge of the 60s and 70s can tell that these are different eras straight away. So it wasn't subtle. It was fundamental changes in the type of haircut people had, the type of clothes people had, and of course the type of music that they listened to as well. Here in 1960, they were listening obviously to Elvis and Buddy Holly and stuff like that, so he was dead already. Now they're listening to The Who and the Small Faces. Here they listen to Traffic and the later Beatles, the Cream. Right here, these guys are listening to Sex Pistols and the Clash, etc. Very different styles of music. Here, I bet you if we went to this party and that party, almost exactly the same music would be playing in each party. The same with these ones. You go to these bars or these. Bet you they were playing very, very similar music in the background as well. So we're in a situation now for more than 20 years in which style has basically stagnated and music has essentially stagnated too. There hasn't been much change in either style or music. And this is weird. Whether it's a good thing or not is another point, but it's definitely not normal for the post-war world and culture. This is normal. If you take from the 1950s right the way through mid-60s, 70s, 80s, right the way through to basically the mid-90s, you saw styles changing every 4 or 5 years, and often quite dramatically. But since the end of the 90s, so we're talking now basically 25 years, we've seen very little change at all. Now, this is very, very strange. Why is this? What's happened? Why do we not see fashion and style changing anymore? And last point, will it start to change again more quickly in the future? Or will there never be a dramatic new fashion and music style happen? We shall soon see.